Hi! I'm very excited about this video because it is going to be the first one in a new series that I've been promising for ages. And it is the Jobs in Publishing series, where I interview a different person every time with a different job in publishing and ask them about the best, the worst of their job, you know. And this is Leena.
Hello!
And we've been publishing buds for a long time, since before we worked in publishing.
The job I have now is that I am social media producer at Vintage Books, which is a division of Penguin Random House. Vintage are famous for lots of things, one including like the red spine. So if you see like red spine classics, they're all vintage.
There's some here.
Any household I go to that like has books and they're like, where do you work? I'm like,
You're like,
look for the red spine. I'm like, them, I do them. But we also do like Ian McEwan and Margaret Atwood and some big people like that, and Nigella. So it's high stakes sometimes.
We'll talk about that part of social media.
Yeah.
So I can also answer some questions in this video because I was also a social media producer for Penguin. I ran Penguin Platform, which were like teen sort of based platforms on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. I've also had to take over on the Penguin Twitter and Instagram sometimes, which is a very big following. And then before that I was social media coordinator as well. So we've both done our fair share of social media. I think the first question I want to ask is, what's the day-to-day like?
So the day-to-day is very self-led. In some ways I like act on my own, but I'm also like part of a team, but I also just kind of like float around like working in the peripheries of like what everyone else is getting on and doing, which are very like hard important things, and I'm like in the background like, can we film that? Maybe we could get that as a boomerang. And they're like, fuck off, Leena. I work within the brand team, so Vintage has a brand team which looks after like all of the things to do with branding about Vintage. So that's anything like to make sure the covers are looking vintage, the right colour is being used, the correct red is very important, and like all of the like internal stuff, the industry stuff, lots of stuff to do with branding and the way we work with other brands. And so within that is the social media. So I run Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and podcast.
Yeah.
So that's quite a lot.
So I think a lot of the social media jobs involve a lot of different things. Obviously, in every job you need a variety of skills.
Yeah.
But I think mastering all the different platforms and all the different kinds of media is kind of a big
I
part
think
of it.
sometimes you just meet somebody who's like, well, I only know about Instagram, and I'm like,
that's not gonna happen.
okay, good luck. If you can get a job just doing Instagram, incredible. But more realistically, you do need to be like multi-platform and literate, and that includes lots of the same skills. So like link tracking, like how to measure engagement, how to like report back and make sure things are going well, like making good images. They're all stuff that I think useful on all platforms, but understanding how each platform works differently would make it more successful.
Yes. And then what else day to day?
I do like a lot of the campaign planning. So when we're doing stuff like the summer campaign, the Christmas campaign, this year I'm leading a whole campaign on reading women in 2019. So if you want to join the Facebook group and join the club, I would very much appreciate it.
Nice
where we're reading a new release with a classic every month, and they have like crossover in themes. So yeah, I get involved a lot in the campaign stuff as well. So I'll also be in the back end of the website, building articles, writing articles sometimes, but my day-to-day is like planning all of that, doing that as it goes along, because obviously social media is live. I schedule a lot of stuff, but I actually do need to be there in case there are complaints or problems with authors, or like I have to just be on watch basically. And I go to meetings, and I shoot videos, and I like interview the authors as well, so I'm a presenter. So yeah, the day-to-day can be anything really, but it's a combination of like sitting at my desk scheduling stuff and replying to people who want to know whether they saw a green book 3 years ago that was like had a big spine, what's the name of it. So it's kind of like bookseller customer service, and talking to authors, shooting video, editing video and audio. 2 things I'd add that were part of my job, and I think maybe yours as well, is requests. So I would always get loads and loads of requests from around the publishing house going, can you tweet this? Can we do this? And kind of managing what's important, what isn't important, what needs to be rephrased. They might be really good at writing a certain kind of copy, but it might need to be adapted for the different channels and have the right tone. And then also popping along to events and covering events on Instagram stories or tweeting or whatever, being there, taking pictures. So there's a lot of admin. There's a lot of trying to create stuff in between everyone else. Claiming a desk. Diplomacy.
And then like going out and doing fun stuff as well.
Yeah, and I guess like tone of voice is a really important thing that I've like had to cultivate and learn. And like just because I used to work at the Telegraph and I had to write stuff in copy that was Telegraph branded, It's very different from writing vintage copy, and like I had to write tone of voice documents.
Yeah, and you have to get that right.
Yeah, and you have to get that right, and you have to have sign off, and there's certain words you can't say, or like, are we gonna be political on our channels? Yes or no? Like, there's lots of stuff like that.
This is why we get sad when a social media person messes up, and everyone says, "Oh, the intern was tweeting again." You're like, no,
listen,
it's not the job that a trained person is doing. It's assuming that it's the intern that's tweeting for a massive brand.
Yeah, because you're basically a combination of being a whole press department, because you're putting out every hour you're putting out copy that represents the whole company. It is important, and people are very respectful in my job anyway. They're like, this is an important thing you're doing, thank you. And they like trust my judgment on things. And it is like, I feel like 10 years ago it might not have been, but now it's like a huge part.
It is a skill. Yeah. What is the most fun and what is the least fun part of your job? And one thing, best and worst.
Some authors are so incredible, and being left in a room with them for an hour to ask them like basically whatever you want, I mean within reason, is like so exciting. Recently I did an interview with Richard Powers that isn't out on the Vintage podcast yet. He wrote a book called The Overstory, which is all about trees and our interactions with them, and it's beautiful. So being able to pick his brains about that before my colleagues got to and be like, did you mean this here, and like what's this about, and like how do you research, like having those like really genuine discussions with an author, and especially because you're not a part of the press, so you're not interviewing them in this high stakes environment, you're already on their side, they trust you.
Yes.
You're trying to make them look
get to
good.
have the fun and like make something good.
Yes. So that's really exciting. And then the worst part.
Yeah.
The worst part, I think it's a very different skill to managing your own platform. So I've managed Just Kiss My Frog, my YouTube channel, for like 10 years, and I make all the decisions, and that I've realised is a very efficient thing. I didn't realise how efficient that was to run your own thing and do everything. Some people think it's very time consuming, but actually I find it very efficient because there's nobody else involved. With a brand, like, you have to include everybody else. You're working for them. You've got to hit all of these different goals and all of these different objectives for everybody's books, and you've got to consider everybody else. So it takes longer. So I think the process is like, it's not the worst thing because it's very important, and to get it right is very satisfying. But creating that process and making it work for all the different books and all the different agendas is like, it's a constant negotiation. And I think as well, like, as brands grow, like that relationship will change, and it's like, I feel like we're like the first generation of people who are doing it. Yes. So we're going to be like, okay, how does this work? How does this make the most sense? And then like probably the next generation, there will be like a way you can train for it, and like, a framework.
I think a lot of the people that do it at the moment are self-taught as well, and like didn't go to.
I have no formal training in social media, and I don't really know that many people who do. And if they do, I'm like, where?
What I find both like a really cool part of the job, and then also a negative side of it, is that you get to do such fun stuff. It's like, who else gets to do Instagram stories as part of their job, or gets to go out and do a shoot, or go to a really fun event and document it? But then at the same time, I think people kind of assume that your job is just, it's just really fun all the time. Do you actually do anything besides taking Instagram pictures? Not that people would say that, but I do think they kind of assume that there is no admin, reporting, difficult deadlines, budgets, like just all the serious stuff that comes with any other job. So I find that kind of both a positive and a negative.
And also people who resent you for your job being fun. The other thing that I think is bad and good is that I really enjoy it, so I tend to overwork, like hours-wise and also energy-wise. I'm just going to be like, and then I come home exhausted with very minimal time because I'm like, I just enjoyed that too much and now I'm tired. And again, with the books, I want to read all the books, so I tend to overread at work. Not at work, because you're not really supposed to read at work. A lot that is all unpaid overtime. So I read a lot in my spare time. Do you want to read an extract of Erin Morgenstern's new book? Oh, I will.
What have your job interviews been like? And do you have any tips for people when it comes to interviewing for this kind of role?
I have a video on my channel. I did a series on publishing. I have a video on my channel about all the jobs that I've done in publishing, which is quite a lot. So my interview for this job involved me also having been a social media producer at another place, Pam Macmillan, and then also like all of the stuff that I do in my spare time with social media. But also because I used to be like a business development manager, and I did a lot of like money and strategy, that all comes into it too. So I think sometimes it's like making sense of all of the stuff that you've done before, if you haven't done social media before, like, and showing how you either know about the industry in an indispensable way, you know about the platforms that you're using in an indispensable way, and you understand what that company might need from social media.
Yes, and I think that is like,
that was my interview.
Showing some sort of understanding of what the company's aims are, what their tone of voice is, just a bit, just make sure that you looked at what they've done.
Yeah.
And then I think for me, for interviews, I've had to do creative tasks. I don't know if you've had to do those, where they go, come up with a Christmas campaign. Which authors would you involve, and what kind of people would you reach out to, and what kind of imagery would you make?
Yeah, so I did that as well for my interview.
Yeah. Like, if you haven't done that before, just pay attention to stuff you've seen online that you liked.
Yeah.
And why did you like it, and why was it effective?
And I think as well, it's like not overemphasizing what you enjoy, but like anticipating what they might need from you. So if somebody comes in and they're like, I just really love Pinterest, all I do is pin all day, I'm like, cool, but book audiences aren't really on Pinterest, and also we don't use Pinterest. So to like research a brand and what they already use, where you think their audience might be, and then learning that. One of my like skills is YouTube videos, it's chatting and stuff, but like I actually emphasize the podcast more as part of my job, because I think
you felt that it fit better with
it fits better. That's where our audience are, and that's where I think we'd sell the most books. So I focus more on podcasts than video sometimes in my job, because I think it works more for vintage, even if I'm probably historically more skilled at video.
Could you do a very quick run through of what you studied at uni, or like what your education was like, and then which jobs you've had, so just in order?
Sure. But I will link to the video because it's longer.
Yeah.
But like, just quick, very quickly. I did an undergrad degree in English literature at Aberystwyth University. I did an English master's at Warwick University. Wasn't that helpful? No, should I put that in? I don't think. Yeah. I was what did I do? I was an intern. I was a sales executive. Export sales executive, ebook executive kind of thing. I was a publicity assistant. I was a publicity manager.
You've really been through the whole...
I was a creative producer. I was a business development manager, and then I am now a social media producer. I was a bookseller.
And you were
very important. I was a bookseller.
Yeah.
Before all of that.
Yeah. You have a way longer list than I have. So I studied English language and culture in the Netherlands as like a second language and literature. Then I did a master's in translation.
Really, why are we with like masters?
I was like, oh. I mean, I loved my master's.
Yeah.
I'm just not using it at the moment. Then I did 3 short unpaid internships. 2 of them were at Penguin. Then I found a job as digital coordinator at Hotkey Books. And then I became a social media producer in general at Penguin, which was like a temporary job. And then I became social media producer for Penguin Platform, and then audience development manager at Penguin Platform as well. Not as many, as you've gone through, but yeah. So I think I went kind of directly into social media.
Whereas I was like one of those pinball, just like bing, bing, bing.
But I think for me, the internships really helped me figure out. I was like, oh, this is the thing I want to do. But then it also depends on what jobs come up. Obviously, you can dream all you want about, I'm gonna go straight into this. But it's not always the way it works. How do you think people can find out more about the publishing industry? Besides watching these videos?
By watching our videos. So the Bookseller has a lot of free articles. The Bookseller is our industry magazine. Some of them are behind a paywall. And when I was a bookseller, I used to save up and buy the Bookseller because I thought it was a good investment for my career. So I did that instead of going to cinema. And it was a wild time, but I did work in publishing, so it's good. But so yeah, you can pay for the Bookseller. I think it's like £16 a month or something, and then read all those articles. But I read all the free ones as well. There's lots of free ones. Jobs in Books is a really good Twitter account. There's a few Twitter accounts like that maybe we can leave the links to below.
Yes.
You can attend London Book Fair as a student. It's a lot cheaper. So I went as a student to London Book Fair just to like...
If you have a YouTube channel, you can potentially get a press pass, I think. Did I get a press? I feel like I signed up for a press pass in the past.
You can become a bookseller. If you don't have a bookshop near you that will employ you, you can volunteer at an Oxfam bookshop. I know people have done that.
What is one tip you would give every person that wants to go specifically into this field?
I think being analytical about what you read, asking other people around you why they read or buy books, and being like a sensible consumer who like watches. You know, I think not everyone can have access to all of this stuff that some people have access to, but I think everyone can ask their friends why they read, or like find people who read and ask them why.
Paying attention to your surroundings and people's
as somebody
behavior.
who reads, pay attention, like what books do you get out of the library? How do you know, like I think being a critical reader and a critical consumer is a really like invaluable skill to have. And
because working in social media and books, you're going to be selling books. That is, you're going to be convincing people, making content that will convince people to buy a book.
Yeah.
All right, final question. What is your proudest or most exciting moment of your career, or just one of them?
Ooh. I don't know, because like I feel like some of them are like, I met Jacqueline Wilson. That was so exciting. But
That
I don't
counts.
think that was like I used to be a publicist for Harry Leslie Smith, and he was a 92-year-old activist. He died recently, and he did such an amazing job of talking about his life living through the Depression and the World Wars. So I was really proud to represent him, and I went to the Labour Party conference with him and like got him on all the radio shows, got him on Radio 4, got him on TV. And I think more recently, like just getting to interview and help the authors that aren't big yet, but will be, but have like nerves about them. So like talking to authors on the phone, being like, it's just Twitter, we can do this, let's do this together. It's just, though, we'll be your friends. I promise it's not full of trolls. Like, I love having moments like that. Obviously I can't name who, but like there are lots of moments like that where I'm like, oh, you guys.
So those were all the questions. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your experiences. I hope that was helpful to watch, and there will be many, many more of these coming. So if you have any specific jobs in publishing you'd like to hear about, let me know. I've made a list of all the friends that I want to invite, because now that I've worked in publishing for a few years, I actually know the people that do all the different jobs now. So I don't think I could have done this like 4 years ago or something. So very exciting. Go subscribe to Leena. Go watch her video about her career. I'll put all of them in the description. And thanks so much for watching.
Doei!